Is it hopeless? Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by for the best in discussion, debate, and analysis. Please like the video and subscribe. And give me a call Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, the College Football Show. We're marching through, yes, this means that we're going through all the power conference schedules, because if we arrive at Purdue and think that this is worth our time, worth your time, we do it all here at the Voice of College Football. Wow, this is a proud football history at Purdue. You may not know that, but especially in the quarterbacking category, if you're going to list all-time great Big Ten quarterbacks, start at Purdue. But historically bad, and even the monitor screws up when Purdue's on. Historically bad. Awful, atrocious, could not defeat an FBS team last year, 0-11, outscored about 50-10 per game. All right, Barry Odom's the new head coach. There is hope. Ryan Walters clearly could not handle the job. 5 wins in 2 seasons, and again, 0-11 against the FBS in 2024. Barry Odom did a decent job at Missouri. Eli Drinkwitz is doing a nice job at Mizzou. Barry Odom about 500 in Columbia. UNLV, though, that's the stop that set up Barry Odom for this job. Did a nice job at UNLV, lifted them to the conference championship game last season and a ranking throughout most of 2024. He's got his hands full. We cannot count up any guaranteed Purdue wins after what we saw in 2024, and they lost many of their best players. And surprisingly, Purdue flooded the transfer portal with some of the best portal players of this offseason. They line up first and foremost against Ball State, a 3-9 football team, where the Cardinals in 2024, August 30th at home. Purdue leads the series 8-0. They last won it against Ball State in 2010, 24-13. Southern Illinois, the FCS competition for the Boilermakers. First meeting between the schools. The Salukis went to 4-8 last year. They had one power conference opponent, and they got drubbed by BYU 41-13. That needs to be a win, obviously, for the Boilers. Then it gets tough. Big Ten opener against USC at home. Trojans lead the series 3-1. They last met in 1998, USC winning 27-17 and looking to rebound from 8-5 and 7-6 the past 2 seasons. That is obviously not good enough for Lincoln Riley or USC. At Notre Dame, and Purdue and Notre Dame obviously waged a rivalry for years and years and years inside the Hoosier State. That was broken up several years ago, but they did get together in 2024, and Purdue wishes the rivalry was not reunited. 66-7. The Irish lead the series 58-26. 2 ties. 9 straight losses for the Boilers. You got to go back to Joe Tiller against Charlie Weiss in 2007, the last time Purdue won against Notre Dame. They get their shot in South Bend before a bye week, and maybe some more winnable games here, possibly. Although Illinois, of course, turned in a heck of a 10-3 season. Purdue took them to overtime. So the Boilermakers got drubbed week after week after week after week in the Big Ten. But they had 2 games that they almost won. This was one of them against Illinois. Inexplicably, they could have and should have won this game. They had it iced late, but they let it go. Luke Altmaier is back for Illinois. They should be formidable as one of Purdue's one of 2 main rivalries, permanent opponents in the Big Ten to start out October. October 11th at Minnesota. These 2 teams last met in 2023. Purdue actually won the game 49-31, and they trail in this series 41-35. Then the date at Northwestern. This was the other game that Purdue almost won last year. They lead the series 53-35. They lost 26-20 last year. Preston Stone, the new quarterback at Northwestern, coming in from SMU. 28 touchdown passes for Stone 2 seasons ago. Rutgers visits West Lafayette on the final weekend of October. Rutgers has actually defeated Purdue in their only 2 meetings in the Big Ten or otherwise. The most recent one, 2020, Rutgers 37-30. 8th in Calcumanis. Minnesota quarterback for a few years, turned in a fine season for Rutgers last year as they finished 7-6. Calcumanis, the best Rutgers quarterback in over a decade. Purdue at Michigan. 47-14 is the all-time series here. They last met in 2023. Michigan won easily by 4 touchdowns. Will Mikey Keene still be the starting quarterback for the Maize and Blue when they hook up with Purdue in November, or will Bryce Underwood take over, or Davis Warren is still a factor in the quarterback battle at Michigan. Then look at Purdue. They got to face Ohio State the next week at home. They trail this series 42-15. They got drubbed 45-0 the last time out. Julian Sayin, most likely the Ohio State starting quarterback. November 18th, Ohio State at West Lafayette. Then Purdue makes the trip out to Washington. These two schools turned in a couple memorable bowl games in the early 2000s. Drew Brees and company losing to Marcus Tuiasosopo in the Rose Bowl in 2001. Purdue came back 2 seasons later, won a Sun Bowl meeting with Washington. They traveled to Seattle on November 15th. They trailed the series 7-2-1. And then, of course, the old Oaken bucket is up for grabs. Or is it? It certainly wasn't. It was all Indiana in one of the worst annihilations. Just not 66-0. Check out the box score. One of the most dominated games you will see in college football, especially two power conference opponents. 66-0, the worst loss in the history of the series. Purdue does lead 77-43. They take on Indiana, of course, the surprise of the Big Ten in 2024. Now we come to the place where we compare the 2024 schedule with the 2025 schedule. 4 same opponents for the Boilers. They would be Indiana, Ohio State, Illinois, and Northwestern. Those teams went 23-13 in the conference last year, so not an easy crossover from season to season for the Boilers, taking on Ohio State, Indiana, and Illinois in particular. So in 2024, it was Oregon, Penn State, Nebraska, Wisconsin, and also Michigan State. Those teams went 26-19. Convert that to 2025's opponents that are different from last fall. You've got some really good teams, upper tier into the middle tier of the Big Ten. No walkovers, although for Purdue, there is no such thing. Michigan, Minnesota went 5-4 in the Big Ten. USC and Rutgers and Washington all 4-5 in the Big Ten. So again, marginal to decent teams. Michigan should bounce back this year. Who knows about USC? Replacing basically top of the ladder Oregon all the way down to the likes of Michigan State and Wisconsin. So these teams that replaced 26-19, 22-23. So you would have to overall consider this to be a lighter schedule for the Boilermakers, but not by much. I don't know if it's considerable. And again, all these teams that are replacing the likes of Wisconsin, Nebraska, Michigan State, etc., are teams that should beat Purdue. It's an uphill struggle, to be kind, for the Boilermakers. Again, losing, you wouldn't think that they would have much talent from a one-win football team, but they lost a lot to the portal. Some of the better portal players actually came from West Lafayette. Barry Odom's starting from the ground up. Let's not expect too much from Purdue. Win a game in the Big Ten, and then you got to beat Southern Illinois and Ball State. Go 3-9. That looks like a good season for Purdue to then progress from there. Comments and questions down below. Please leave those. The College Football Shows Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We will see you then.